The only way you could do Savathun justice in a story sense is if you'd had some big build-up, you'd had things being teased for a very long time, if you had things that were kind of hinting towards where she was going with this for a very long time, and it turns out that Bungie has been doing that since the very beginning. So, go ahead and get this. One of the first interactions we had with Savathun in Destiny 2, all the way back in Vanilla, was the Savathun song strike. And do you remember the key thing of that? Was that Guardians were basically being sacrificed to fuel Hive magic, but they were specifically having their void light siphoned off from them into crystals that you would then have to destroy. That might have been our very first hint as to what Savathun's agenda was.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, the further back you look, the more Savathun references you have, the more that you can get the sense that she is either tampering with or playing with the idea of the light itself, or alternatively, is building force and power towards some kind of really grand confrontation. You know, there's this really foreboding nonsense.
I've seen, I think, like similar to what you're talking about in terms of like her just like harvesting guardians, and I think it was kind of alluded to in that very first trailer of that thing in the swampy forest that's like, I guess I'm not sure if anyone knows what it is, but the big crystal type thing that looks like it's kind of harvesting some kind of energy, or she's definitely doing something where she's manipulating the light and guardians. And yeah, like you said, she's been doing that since Savathun's song, one of the very first strike missions in D1 Vanilla.
It's worth noting too, like, we still don't know how she's able, as you know, if you've not heard this bit, then oh my gosh, watch the reveal. Like, don't let us say it for you, watch the reveal, it's phenomenal. But Savathun's entire deal this time around is that her and her hive now use the light. And of course that's, probably one of the bigger plot twists in Destiny. I'd say it's honestly bigger than Guardians using the darkness, because we'd always had like little thoughts and hints towards the possibility of that, but I don't know of a single person who thought about the idea of Hive potentially using light.
Plus the fact that it's the Hive. Yeah. The Hive, like if you said the Fallen using the light, we already kind of / have that, are going to have that. It's not to the Cabal, not the Vex, but like the Hive are the Hive are literally just the token dark, evil minions of the dark. You would never possibly imagine them to be using the light. So it's just like, it really is complete opposites when you see. It's clever. You know, I always talk about how I appreciate with the big grand story plot twists, and when they're able to tie these big loops in and make them come full circle to the point where now we have Guardians have always been the good guys with the light, now using darkness, and now you have the most evil, biggest, baddest enemy being Savathun and her Hive using the light. So it's just like a complete backwards. When you see the trailer of just like thralls using, what was it, using the blade barrage and nova bombs. It's just like, what am I watching right now?
Calling down like landfall from Stormcaller, and you're like, that isn't right, dude.
I thought they were Guardians at first. When I saw them, I was like, are they new?
Like,
I thought they were the new supers.
It's so deliberate too, because they're deliberately posed in that sense. You know, you've got, they look I think it's like represented by a wizard, an acolyte, and a knight, right? But each of them is using one of the three elements. And when there's a little prelude to it, just before you actually see them, you hear the sounds of 3 Guardian supers go off.
Yeah.
I think it's
that's going to be annoying.
Sentinel Shield, the Dawnblade, and something to do with Arc. But it all goes off in the background, and you think, oh, I recognize that, that noise. It's, those guys. I thought
they were Guardians. Right? I thought they were showcasing the new reworked light subclasses, and I thought, those supers look a bit different. And I was like, oh, that's a acolyte using that's a wizard using a hunter super. What's going on there? It's backwards. Ooh. But I mean the Hive with ghosts. It's also playing on something which we've talked about before, and something I pointed out in a few videos about the kind of common recurring theme of these villains trying to steal the light. Obviously, you had Gaul, the OG Destiny 2 launch villain, trying to steal the light, which he nearly got close with, but didn't really succeed, wasn't like worthy. Then you had Aramis, which I thought was very interesting. I've been heard kind of trying to steal the light. She didn't really earn it. She kind of hijacked it and used these machines to somewhat steal it, but again, wasn't worthy. She got frozen. And now you have Savathun, who is so clever, and she's managed to. So what I say?
Do you mean the darkness? Aramis is all about darkness.
Oh yeah. Trying to steal the darkness. I meant. But then you have Savathun, who's clever enough to somehow do what Gaul couldn't do, and she's able to steal. Well, I guess evidently not steal. Evidently, she's going to earn, or somehow, if she's got ghosts, she's figured out something that we don't. So
that's the biggest mystery too, right? It's Gaul seemed all well and good, like he forcefully took the light, and it made some sense then when he was rejected. Savathun and the way that she gets light has caused ghosts to appear. And that in itself is a little terrifying because the Traveler makes ghosts. The implication there is that either she has had some kind of effect where she's been able to get the Traveler to create these things, or alternatively, she's mastered some means by which she can manipulate the Traveler to choose the Hive and her, or maybe the Traveler just chose her, which is a terrifying idea. But I feel as though all of these lend into the moral grayness that they're now trying to paint with all of this, Just in the same way that the Exo Stranger was like, hey, darkness is just a tool. If there was another expression of this that you could, use to flip on its head and prove the same point, this would be it. This is perfect for proving that moment.
I feel like I would be leaning towards the second one you said, which is her. I think, and I'm sure there's a lot more about this that you could weigh in on, but I feel like I'm leaning towards, and I think Bungie's kind of giving some evidence of this, that the Traveler isn't really this kind of magical, living, godlike being. I think it really is more just like a simple machine that just works and doesn't work. And that's what I remember Console, when him and Gaul were talking, he was saying that Gaul was talking about it as if it's this magical, godlike being, whereas Console, who I think probably knew more than him, was saying it's just a machine. It's not actually this special thing. It's just literally if you follow these parameters, it will give you light. So I think it's more along the lines of the Traveler isn't this kind of special, benevolent being with thoughts and opinions. I think it really is more just if you just do these things, it will just give you light. We've seen that with Aldrin. It doesn't really discriminate. It's just if you meet this criteria, it just will make you a guide. And I think that's kind of what Savathun's figured out. I think she's figured out a way to just do what the machine wants and just get the light and kind of prove that the Traveler isn't that special, Guardians aren't that special. It's just kind of if you meet the criteria, it will just give you light. Kind of how the darkness, we thought it was this, complex, evil thing, but it's kind of if you just accept it and work with it, it will just give you powers. And both sides, they're both just two sides of a coin, which is what Bungie's trying to say. But what do you think about that?
I feel like there is more complexity to them, but I think that's predominantly because we get communications from both on a regular basis, and there seems to be some opposition. The Traveler is a lot more quiet with its stuff, but us, Ikora, Crow, and even Clovis Bray, back when he was a human, at various points have received visions and dreams from the Traveler that have seemed to be very clearly communicated. The Clovis Bray one is really interesting too, because it actually appears in his journal, and it's all about hey, every single time, people go ahead and they're tempted by this greed, and you essentially end up destroying your family. It's kind of the gist of what's going on in that one. But it's the Traveler because it's communicating as the quote Alpha Lupi, the mother wolf.
Yeah, it has those. Yeah, the transcripts where it was saying things like flee and all of that. Yeah, it's it's so hard to understand what it even exactly. But, I guess obviously by design,
it's tough. But that's also the case with the darkness. The darkness communicates more often with people when they die, or with us. But I feel like anything communicating with Guardians is just kind of a reference to how special we are in a story sense for all of this. It's one of these things of we are able to, as Guardians, affect the universe in a way that no one else can. And we are, in a strange way, sort of the decision makers and the axis on which the entire universe is going to turn. Previously we were the only paracausal beings that had ever seen the Traveler's light through the ghosts, and it was unique in that particular sense. We were able to make our own fate in that particular way. And we were never morally bound to good. But now we also wield darkness. So in a strange way, we are this really unique combination of all the great powers in the universe. And as seems to be the case, commonly we are the fate makers.
Yep.
We are the ones that decide what's going on. So yeah, man, complications of darkness and light are something that I don't think anyone can adequately answer until maybe Lightfall and Final Shape. But yeah, that's there's a lot still to be answered on that front.
These are the things that interest me. The kind of the big, because like the Destiny lore gets very philosophical and into like physics and astrophysics and like the nature of the universe and existence and good versus evil. Like obviously its core, it's a video game, but the writers and the people who are creating the narrative, they definitely know some stuff about the universe and like morality and good versus evil and light versus like. There's a lot of very philosophical themes which I always enjoy. I'm very much into philosophy. I know you are as well. So these are things that always interest me when you have these kind of these villains and what is good and the line between good and evil is very thin and which side are you on and two sides of a coin. Like it's just they're doing it very well. We've come a long way from the days of just like, oh, the Cabal are doing something, stop them, to now we're like just getting into the real stuff, like the real big bad enemies and light and dark and the pyramids. So it's just good to see Destiny is like story wise, as we always praise. The story is always, you know, it's just getting better and better.